and thank you for attending today's webinar, Robust Data Management at Your Fingertips, CipherTrust Data Security Platform by Thales. Our speaker today will be Todd Moore. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets which you can use. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit them in the Q&A box, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. You can also expand your slide area by clicking on the Maximize icon on the top right slide viewer. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the Help widget. If you can please take a moment to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, that would be helpful. And with that, I will pass it on to Todd Moore to kick off today's presentation.
Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Thales Security webinar. Today, we're going to talk about a couple topics. The first is going to be around some of the industry feedback that Thales received from our data threat report. This is a survey that we send out to almost 4,000 IT security professionals, and it really shows some of the trends that we're seeing in the data security business. And I wanted to share some of that information with you and see if that resonates with you and what you see in your own business. And in the second part, I want to talk a little bit about what Thales is doing to address some of these trends that we're seeing in the IT security business, the data security business. We'll talk a little bit about ransomware, talk about secrets management, we'll talk about post-quantum computing, and then we'll have some time at the end to answer some questions. But excited to be here today. Again, my name is Todd Moore, and I'm responsible for our data security products, the roadmap and the go-to-market. But before we get started, let's talk about a poll. I'm going to click this button here and see if I can show a poll and get some of your feedback just to see from the audience perspective, what is your biggest concerns about data security today? And you can pick more than one here. There's 5 choices. Compliance and security regulations, meeting the requirements for security audits, training costs from disparate security systems, corporate regulation impacts regarding data breaches, and data sovereignty and public cloud deployment. So if you could just take a few minutes to respond to this poll, we'd love to get your feedback around these 5 items. Again, you can pick more than one of what is your biggest concern or concerns with data security today. I've not done this before, but I'm not sure anybody has submitted anything. Let me try that again. Well, that won't slow us down. We're going to cover all these items today and hopefully give you some hints or best practices when it comes to addressing these different data security concerns. And not sure if it's myself running the poll. Again, this is the first time doing this, but if you have feedback in this area you want to put into the chat window, that'd be much appreciated as well too. Oh, hold on, I'm being told to spend a little bit more time on the poll slide. So I'll go back there and be a little bit more patient. All right, we've got meeting the requirements for security audits, 1 person. All right, very good. So we'll slow down in our next poll questions. We do have a couple of these, a few of these integrated throughout the presentation. So I want to talk about some data, and these are just some data points. I'll take it for what it is, that we did collect from talking to almost 4,000 IT security, data security professionals around the globe. And some of this information hopefully is useful for you. The first finding from our data security study was that we're really only human. 55%, over half the people we talked to, experienced recent cloud data breaches because the root cause was through human error. And that makes a lot of sense. As we go from on-prem to the cloud, making sure that we've configured and set up everything properly in the cloud is a complicated task. And organizations are looking for ways to make it easier to move to the cloud and to make sure they close those holes, those gaps in their systems when they configure for those types of environments. Identity and access management is very important for organizations. Almost 30% said having the right controls around identity is important for protecting information when you want to stop a data breach. And the last item, which we're proud of, is to see strong multi-factor authentication adoption increasing to almost 2/3 of the respondents of their survey. Last year, it was around 50% that had MFA with all their applications and all their systems. And today, it's almost 2/3. So it's good to see that folks are actually picking that option from a best security practice, that multi-factor authentication option. Some other topics to share, large topics that are really impacting the data security world, is digital sovereignty. This is on an uptake around the globe. It's not just a global thing. You hear about European Union having something called GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, where you really want to maintain sovereign control of your data within the confines of the European Union. Almost every business does work with the United States, or United States companies do work throughout Europe, have to be concerned with these digital sovereignty or data sovereignty laws and data privacy laws that are emerging. Here in the US, we've got many states adopting very strong data privacy laws that are emerging on a day-to-day, a week-to-week basis, and they can continue to be written, and those data privacy laws are usually written per state. So you can think about 50 different states within the United States having different data privacy laws, and how do you get your arms around digital sovereignty and protecting your data? And it's all about really maintaining control of that data. So we found from this survey that 96% of the respondents recognize encryption as a way to protect data when it goes into a public cloud, which is a really good method to make sure that you own control of that data through an encryption key. So the mathematics of encrypting data, protecting it, you do create these encryption keys, but on the flip side, almost, again, 2/3, 62% of the respondents of the survey say they have over 5 different enterprise key management systems. And you see that on the right hand of this slide. And that's a problem, because if you do encryption and you're protecting your data in the right way, you have to be able to manage all these disparate key systems, and that gets to be pretty hard and difficult. So that's a problem that looks like it needs to be solved out there in the real world, in our world today. We recognize that folks are moving to the cloud, and I'm not sure about all of your organizations, but it seems like even Thales is using more and more different cloud vendors. We're not being beholden to a single cloud vendor. We're working with multiple cloud vendors. And last year, there was about 57% of the respondents were using multi-cloud. This year, it's up to 80%. So a lot of folks are really using more than one cloud, and that can be for redundancy, high availability, for a lot of reasons. You don't want to be beholden to a single cloud vendor, but a lot of cloud usage. And there's also an agreement, going back to that, we're only human. 55% of the respondents to this survey agree, or strongly agree, that working in cloud is much more difficult than when they're working on on-premise systems. So operational complexity is really emerging as an issue for a lot of the folks in the IT security world and the folks that Thales work with today. We recognize, I talked about digital sovereignty and the different laws in the European Union and the United States, but it's really global. There's emerging laws in India, Australia, China, all throughout the world. And these new data privacy and regulatory issues is a concern for a lot of the folks out there. I think if you look at the survey we did at the beginning, being able to show compliance to an auditor when you're working in these digital sovereignty, data sovereignty worlds where you want to leverage public cloud, you have to be able to prove to an auditor that you're protecting that data in such a way that you can meet the compliance requirements. And so that's a huge issue that we're going to talk about as we go throughout the presentation, how we can make sure we show that level of control to an auditor. And last but not least, there are 2 other topics that we talked about when we did our data threat report this past year. One was around ransomware, and we're seeing that, surprisingly, only about half of the organizations that responded to our survey have a formal ransomware in place. And that's only a 1% increase over last year. It's surprising in the sense that ransomware attacks continue to increase, and we're not seeing necessarily a lot of prevention happening throughout companies. And there's some questions about why that is. And so we'll talk more about that, but that's a trend that's happening. On the other side of this slide, you see post-quantum cryptography. This used to be somewhat of a science academic project, but we're really seeing post-quantum cryptography move into the real world. There was an RSA conference not too long ago that I attended, and a lot of time when you go to RSA conferences, and RSA is one of the largest security conferences in the US, there's a lot of main themes or topics that is talked about among security researchers and companies and folks in general in the security industry. And post-quantum is emerging now as something that is a real threat to all of us. 62% of the respondents of the survey agree with that. And the fact that you can harvest now, decrypt later, classic cryptography, those algorithms are going to become under a threat as we go throughout the rest of this decade and into the next decade, where post-quantum algorithms or quantum computing will be able to break some of that traditional cryptography. And so we need post-quantum resistant algorithms to be able to support a lot of our day-to-day use cases that use encryption and cryptography today. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. But that was kind of the introduction here. I just wanted to provide some highlights from the 2023 Data Threat Report. I'm kind of show everyone what we're seeing as major trends when we talk to those 4,000 IT professionals out there in the world. This is the 10th year we've done this Data Threat Report, and I wanted to show this slide because there is up on the bottom left of the slide, you can see where you can go to our website to download this report and go through it yourself, take a look at the trends, and would love to hear any feedback that you have regarding 2023. Are we on track or not on track when it comes to data threats? So now I want to talk a little bit about Thales and what we're doing to try to address some of these IT security threats that we're seeing out there in the marketplace today. For us, our data security ambition, if you look at the product line and our roadmaps, what we're building for folks is we really want to put customers in control of their data. This goes back to sovereignty. It's really maintaining control of your data no matter where it goes, whether it's on-premise, in the cloud, and hybrid type of environments. We want to give you the ability to do that and the tools to be able to do that in your different organizations. We want to be able to give you the capability to centralize data security operations. We've heard from many of you from all different sizes, small, medium business to enterprises, that centralizing data security in one spot is very important. You don't want a lot of security vendors. You want basically one vendor that can centralize all those data security operations, and in particular enterprise keys. So we mentioned earlier that one of our findings were that most organizations, large organizations, have 5 different enterprise key management systems, and it's hard to manage across all those different systems. Being able to centralize all that work into one platform is very, very important. Number 3, we want to simplify the road to compliance. All those emerging data privacy laws, we want to be able to provide the capabilities to be able to meet compliances very quickly. Being able to find data in your organization that's sensitive, being able to characterize that data, classify it, and then being able to protect it and control it over time is a way to show to auditors that you're meeting those compliance needs. Through all that we just talked about, we'll mitigate the risk of data breaches by protecting information through different controls like encryption. Our organization is providing flexible consumption models. It's our goal, it's our ambition. If you think about classically, we provided things on-prem and appliances, physical appliances or virtual appliances. Where the world is heading is folks want to consume in an as-a-service model, a consumption model. So we want to provide all of our traditional legacy data security use cases as a service. So more flexibility with consumption models, and most importantly, hybrid, being able to work amongst the classical on-prem, but also in an as-a-service model. So provide that flexibility for customers. And last but not least, which I think came out of the data threat report, is operational complexity. We are only human, and as we go outside our organization and we set up in public cloud or public software as a service, just applications, different tools with the ability to scale and work outside our organization, we have to be able to protect ourselves, and doing that in such a way that is not difficult, that reduces mistakes. It is important for companies like Thales, and so we want to help our customers reduce operational complexity by giving them the tools to automate, orchestrate, and do things in a much more secure, less complex manner. So one of the ways that we do that, I'm going to introduce this CipherTrust Data Security Platform to you, is we have tried to consolidate, centralize a lot of the data security functions that you may find throughout your organization in different silos. You may have legal, HR using a system. You may have engineering doing different things. You may have DevSecOps using a different system. We tried to consolidate all that capability into our CipherTrust Data Security Platform. It really gives you data access and control. If you think about the way we view this platform, we like to talk about it in 3 action verbs that you see in the bottom left of the slide. It's really discover, protect, and control. And our thought process, our hypothesis is you got to be able to understand where your secure data is. It might be in a structured system like a database, or an unstructured system like a file system, or it might be in a cloud storage. The idea there is find out where your sensitive data is and then protect it with the appropriate controls. And in our case, controls are through access control, but also through encryption and centralized key management. Our platform is a physical box or a virtual appliance. It also can be offered as a service, a Thales managed as a service. So you get all these capabilities we're going to talk about that you see on the slide in a lot of different form factors, and you can route those into a FIPS 140-2 level 3 hardware security module. And that can either be built into the appliance, it could be an external hardware security module, or we also have a as a service cloud HSM as well too. And the idea there is we're able to provide full lifecycle key management by centralizing encryption keys and secrets across all your different data states. And traditionally, when you think about data, data is created, it's data in use, it's data in motion, moving from one point to the other point, or data in rest, in storage, or in a database. And so we provide a lot of tools across a lot of different application, file servers, storage system, VMs and containers, and all the cloud platforms, a way for you to protect data as it goes through those different states between data at rest, data in motion, and data at use, and centralize those keys in one spot. We're very proud of our ecosystem. Every organization uses a whole slew of different partners and integrations, and we have over 450 different partner integrations that allow us to support native encryption by storing encryption keys outside of the cloud service provider or the application itself. Or we work by providing our own tools, agent and agentless, within file system, unstructured file systems, as well as databases, for example. So that's our CipherTrust Data Security Platform. And this has been in market now for several years, and I would say it's a market-leading platform when it comes to consolidating and controlling your data across a lot of different environments, both on-prem and cloud. So time for another polling question. So let's take a break and let me stop talking for a second. I want to talk about ransomware. Does your organization have a formal ransomware policy in place? And there's 3 answers. We have yes, no, or I hope so. I guess that means you're not really sure. Appreciate you guys finding the polling buttons and providing some feedback. Another 20 seconds here. All right. Yes. All right. Overwhelmingly yes. That's a great response. And it's actually counter to the survey that I showed earlier, the survey results, where only 50% of organizations claim to have a formal ransomware policy in place. So you guys on the call are well ahead of some of your counterparts and peers. So that's great to hear. But what I want to talk about is, ransomware is, again, something that's in the press every day. It's something that we talk about, and it has a lot of interest these days, but it has changed the way that we look at our business and breach economics in particular. Almost 20% of 1 out of 5 organizations have been a target of a ransomware attack from data from WSJ per research survey, as you can see here, that was done last year. 52% have a formal plan to follow in case of ransomware attack, which again is consistent with our data threat report results about half, but from this call is not as high as the 100% that we saw on this call. And 17%, again, almost 1 out of 5, 17% would have paid or would have paid for to get their data back from a ransomware attack. So it's obviously something that organizations need to worry about, need to care about, and I'm hoping that others in our community will really think about the formal plan in case of a ransomware attack. It's just having that knowledge and recognition that this is not going to go away. I think it's important as we go forward. So from a Thales perspective, data security perspective, we thought for a long time, how could we help our customers when it comes to ransomware protection? And we recognize that ransomware comes in a lot of different flavors. It changes almost daily, the attacks. And so there is no silver bullet. There's no one-all, end-all protection when it comes to ransomware. And so putting that plan in place is important, but you have to think about all the different contingencies that might happen. For us, we decided to really focus on what we know and we do well. And one of the things that our CipherTrust platform is really good at is protecting unstructured data, files and folders. And the way our technology works is we sit within the file system, the OS, the operating system level, where we can understand who is accessing or touching files within a file system. And we also can notice who's encrypting those files or who has access to encrypt those files. And so we've taken the agent that we deploy today to do all this unstructured file encryption at the guard point, and we've now added this ransomware. I guess I'd say innovative technology. It really is. Our engineering team thought about this for long and hard about how they could, help with ransomware. And the idea is because we can understand who's accessing the file system, and we can also detect when encryption is occurring when it shouldn't be occurring. We can identify that there's some sort of attack. Something is malicious, something's happening that shouldn't be happening, and we can block it from happening. So this technology, again, is not foolproof. It can have a whitelist where you can say some processes can run and touch the data, so there's a whitelisting capability. But in general, it does recognize that an attack is occurring, that there's something malicious happening in a file system, and we can block that and notify that something is not right. We've tested this against the current top 10 ransomware attacks that we found on the dark web. We had a standalone computer where we tested this against, and we were able to detect those attacks. But again, ransomware changes so rapidly and the attacks change so frequently, we're constantly going to be updating this technology to see what's next and how we can enable at least with the file systems. And this is offered today as an upsell and upgrade to our current agents when it comes to CipherTrust Transparent Encryption. And really wanted to talk to you about that and let you know that Thales is out there to help when you think about a defense in depth perspective when it comes to ransomware. Another area I wanted to highlight to the team today is around, this group today is around secrets. We see a massive amount of secret sprawl. The idea there is we're seeing a 42% year-over-year growth in machine secrets, and that came from a 2021 global CIO survey you see at the bottom of the slide. Essentially, today, I talked a lot about encryption keys. We're really, really good at Thales and our CipherTrust platform on managing credentials, certificates, keys, tokens, managing that full life cycle from the time that a key is generated throughout its whole life cycle until it's no longer needed. And a lot of time encryption keys can be around for decades or at least years. And in the case of governments, it could be 30 years perhaps that you have an encryption key, a root key that needs to be protected. But as the world has expanded and DevSecOps developers, which are a very important part of the IT security team these days and development of applications and other elements within organizations, we're seeing a lot of human to machine and machine to machine secrets that are emerging. And secrets can be passwords, they can be SSH keys, API keys, even QR codes. And the idea is that secrets are very temporal. They have a shelf life of maybe minutes or seconds or days, months, instead of years. But there's no reason why you can't manage secrets the same way you manage keys. And in fact, you should. I get asked all the time, why don't you manage your secrets, the lifetime of secrets, just like you manage the lifetime of keys, at least from the ability to create them, to rotate them, to manage them, and to delete them as needed. And so over 62% of organizations don't know how many keys or secrets they have throughout their company because they're exploding a number of passwords and API keys that are being generated on a daily basis. And we wanted to be able to help organizations get control of that, just like we had for their encryption keys. So we just launched a few weeks ago a secrets management capability along with our key management capability as part of the CipherTrust platform. And what you're seeing here is the management console of the CipherTrust Manager. We just added a new secrets management tile within this management console, and we're working with a partner called Aquilus. And so Aquilus is the magic behind this new secrets management tile. And we're excited to be able to bring this to our existing and new customers and helping you get control of not just your encryption keys, but as well, also all those secrets and all that secrets management as well too. So time for another poll question. We're going through relatively quickly. I wanted to ask you, how ready is your organization for the coming data security threat, not threat, from quantum computing? Not at all ready, somewhat ready, completely ready, or you're not sure? Give folks a few minutes to submit their feedback, please. 20 more seconds here. If you have some inputs around quantum computing, would love to hear it. Okay. I'm not sure. That's overwhelming the answer and actually very much in sync with what's happening today. As I said earlier, the quantum computing is, it's this mysterious academic for a long time concept. We're starting to see the actual quantum computer technology mature at a pace that it could be a real threat to classical asymmetric encryption, as well as symmetric encryption with smaller keys in the very near future. I think the consensus at that conference I mentioned earlier, the RSA conference, was somewhere between 5 and 15 years. We might actually be able to start seeing threats from quantum computing. And the world is emerging around this. The US government, as well as Canadian government and other governments around the world have put out different guidance of what it's going to take to be prepared for this world of a post-quantum or a quantum computer. And I think most of it right now is just getting your arms around what in your organization would be a threat, documenting that. And then NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, is actually developing post-quantum resistant algorithms that'll be the replacement for existing traditional classic cryptography or algorithms with this new post-quantum algorithms. And so folks have insight into what those algorithms look like today, and they're in the process of implementing them and seeing how they'll work in the real world. The idea, though, is a quote here from an ETSI white paper about quantum safe cryptography and security. It's just without quantum resistant encryption, things that will be transmitted, that has been transmitted or will be transmitted, will be vulnerable to eavesdropping and public disclosure. I said it earlier in the presentation, harvest now, decrypt later is viewed as, from our data threat report, as one of the major threats when it comes to post-quantum cryptography. There is adversaries out there today that are pulling data that's encrypted with classical encryption and storing it away. And the idea is that sometime in the future, they'll be able to decrypt that information. So something that you have today is encrypted, it's protected, but it may not be protected in the next decade. And so there's some threats and vulnerabilities associated with that. What we're doing in Thales when it comes to quantum computing is Thales, as a corporation, has actually submitted one of the post-quantum algorithm candidates to NIST. It's called the Falcon algorithm. So we're very close to developing that next generation of post-quantum resistant technology. We're also taking all the candidate algorithms and placing them inside our HSMs, our Luna hardware security module, as well as our high-speed encryptors. So data at rest and data in motion. We've provided external entropy sources when it comes to quantum entropy sources based. We're able to support demonstration of post-quantum resistant algorithms and cryptography, as well as quantum key distribution. And at the RSA conference a few weeks ago, we worked with a company called Wells Fargo and Quantinium, and we're able to demonstrate a full certificate authority stack or certificate issuance stack that was based on traditional legacy cryptography, actually running with the post-quantum resistant algorithms and all the capabilities that would survive a post-quantum quote unquote world. And so we're starting to actually see real use cases being demonstrated now, what it will look like in a post-quantum computing world. I think that's important. We'll be able to see how things work from a functional performance perspective, but actually show that it is possible to make that migration and plan for that migration. So some real use cases, some real case studies that are emerging, and happy to share those public references with folks on this call or in the future that would be interested. So good stuff happening there. So didn't want to take up too much of your day today. This is a half an hour of your day. This is the last slide for me. It really tries to encompass, again, the way we view ourselves as a security company, a data security company. We like to view ourselves through these three major action words that you see up here. We describe ourselves as discover, protect, and control. The idea is that you can, with our platform, if there is a capability to go out and find what is critical to you. We have the ability to do that, to go find critical data. And once you've identified that critical data, what's important to you as an organization or as a person, you want to protect it. And there's a lot of different methods for protection. There's encryption, data encryption, there's tokenization, there's data masking, there's access control. And we support all those different types of protection mechanisms on our platform. And the last bit is really around, once you've protected something, you've got to control it. And great best practice is to centralize that control, to do all that on a single platform that allows you to manage the beginning of critical data after you've found it, or even when it's first built, created. You want to be able to control that data being created and throughout its whole life cycle. And we do that through key and secrets management now, being able to create those elements, rotate those elements, and manage keys and secrets throughout the whole life cycle of the data. So discover, protect, control is our tagline, and hopefully is a good representation of what Thales CipherTrust Data Security Platform can bring to you.
Thank you, Todd. Looks like we have some questions from the audience.
Sure.
How does Thales integrate with my existing technology stack?
Excellent question. So we support the existing technology stack. If that technology stack offers any sort of external key management interface, which is a great way to manage control in those third-party or other applications. And also from a sovereignty perspective, a best practice for auditors is to see that you're managing keys externally from an application. That's through standard interfaces. There's something called Key Management Interoperability Protocol is one way. There's TDE, Transparent Data Encryption. So we don't necessarily try to replace the native encryption of those technology stacks. We offer you an opportunity to export or to let us manage those keys as a trusted third party within our platform. That's one way with the existing technology stack. The other is we do have those 450 partner integrations. So if you're working with Dell, or you're working with NetApp, or you're working with Teradata, trying to think of a few, SAP is another big one, Oracle. We have integrations of our technology inside those technologies where, for example, if you have Teradata, there is a security module that's powered by Thales that can run within your existing Teradata technology stack. And you have the option of, again, of managing that security from a third-party perspective within our platform. So multiple ways, and would love to talk with you. You have a specific integration or a specific technology stack, we could take a look at that. We do that at Thales. We're happy to sit down, look at what's in the stack, and then offer some best security practices going forward.
Great, thank you. I have another question here. What do you think are some of the positive and negative impacts for emerging AI technologies?
Wow, that's a great question, and very relevant. I talked about the RSA conference and post-quantum and quantum being a big topic. Well, of course, artificial intelligence, a very, very hot topic these days as well, too, if not the hottest topic. We see a lot of opportunities from artificial intelligence, AI. We're looking at ways to deploy AI within our own technologies, especially around discover and classification. I think that the legacy way of using regex, which is just a comparison to find critical data, is outdated. There's a lot more contextual behavioral analysis that goes into play whenever you think about finding critical data. So within Thales, that's an area where we're looking to leverage AI and machine learning. So I think it's a powerful technology for us, even in this data security industry. In general, you talk about ChatGPT and all the other BART and all the other different AI engines out there. I think the jury's still out exactly. The benefits are well known, but the jury's still out on how we're going to protect our corporations and our company's data and our own personal data as you go into those large AI engines. And so I think from a data security perspective, we're going to employ AI technology to make our customers' journey better and less operational complex. And we're also looking for innovations that we can help so that our customers can be protected when they go use those different external ChatGPT and other type of AI type engines. So an advancing world and an exciting place to be in and to work in that area.
Fantastic, thank you. A third question here would be, protecting the identities of people and things connected to 5G networks is a big concern. How is Thales helping organizations address this?
Great questions. 5G is an amazing emerging technology that improves all of our lives, right? With higher networking speeds and the ability to really compartmentalize, containerize applications and things within our own personal element of that network. And those are the areas that we're really focusing on from a security perspective. We're working with 5G vendors, first of all, to deal with the certificate management, the public key infrastructure management that happens in 5G networks. You know, whether it's a device or a person, you got to be able to trust that identity and whoever that device or that element is. And so we offer those types of assurances with our security systems today, and we do that today with many 5G vendors. The second element is around data in motion. So you're thinking about, you know, a network that is much more, it's faster, higher performant, has a lot of different capabilities, and so there's tons of data moving across this network. You want to make sure that data is protected when it moves. You don't want anyone siphoning off or listening in on the network and stealing that data. So we are working with 5G companies to make sure that as data moves from one node to another node or across the network as a whole, it's being protected, being encrypted in the appropriate way. And then last but not least, it is the containerization piece. So if you think about a very large, complicated network with a lot of bandwidth, you want to be able to segregate that in such a way that each individuals can have their element, their piece of time on that network. And you want to be able to protect that information as it flows through the network. So there's a lot of container technologies that are being used in 5G or being proposed. And we have the solutions to be able to protect those containers, but also manage the encryption keys that goes along with those containers and persistent storage as it moves across the network. So 5G is a lot of opportunities for all of us, and I'm hopeful, and I'm happy to say it's going to have even better security than the legacy 3G, 4G networks.
Perfect. Can you add multi-factor authentication to the CipherTrust encryption solution?
Absolutely. So we talked about access control and the fact that CipherTrust platform can manage access policies as well as a bunch of other data protection. But to actually either to manage other multi-factor authentication technology or to manage you having access to our CipherTrust platform, we have a lot of options there around multi-factor authentication. We work with third-party authenticators, and we also work with our own service. One thing I didn't talk about in this webinar today is Thales is a multi-factor authentication company, as well as an identity and access management company. And so we have our own homegrown technologies that integrate with our CipherTrust platform. So a lot of different options there, depending on what you use. It doesn't have to be Thales multi-factor authentication. We do work with other third parties as well.
Do you offer demos of CipherTrust encryption?
Excellent question. Very good question. Of course we do. In fact, we have a community edition of CipherTrust platform. And that was something that I was remiss in not saying earlier. You can go to any of the major cloud service providers, go to Amazon Marketplace, Azure, Google Marketplace, do a search for CipherTrust Data Security Platform. You're going to find our free forever community edition. You'll be able to download CipherTrust Community Edition. You'll have free access to 2 of our connectors. We have a Kubernetes connector that allows you within a Kubernetes environment to protect persistent storage that's available to you to use. And we also have a data protection gateway, which is also working in a Kubernetes type of environment, where as you set up a blueprint or a framework with Kubernetes in a sidecar approach, we can actually siphon data or see data in that sidecar approach and are able to apply different policies. So those are connectors that come along with the CipherTrust Community Edition. Please go there, download it, play around with it. If you want to look at our service, we have a CipherTrust as a service, which is available on our marketplace. Thales has a marketplace called Data Protection on Demand, DPOD. Again, if you go to your favorite internet web browser and type in DPOD Marketplace, you'll find a whole bunch of cloud services that Thales provides. One of them is CipherTrust as a service. And there you get a full access to CipherTrust to play around with for 30 days from that service perspective. So all the use cases in the marketplace are available for demo use or free use for those 30 days evaluation use. So have fun. Please go check that out. We'll encourage everyone.
Thank you, Todd. And thank you everyone for joining us today. If you'd like to review this presentation, please check out our on-demand page for more. Have a good day.
Bye all. Thank you.